Right, okay. So carrying on the project of looking at trees and foliage, I brought a couple of, this was the one I was going to bring in last week, and I've got to bring it. So last week I did a demo of winter trees in oil, so I brought that just to show you an actual picture that I've done. And the other one is more of a kind of autumn summer ring. So those two are oils, but I thought this week I'd move on to watercolours. And I've just been practicing a bit before I start because I've not done any watercolours for quite a while, certainly not trees anyway. So I was thinking perhaps a little bit of a summer one and then maybe a little bit of a winter one.
I'm just
You can? Yeah.
sign language. I can see better here than over there.
Okay, yeah. I seem to be a bit deaf in this ear today, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so this one I just started, find the other picture. So I was using that picture and just started that one, so I'll start that again. And really just starting with the foliage, so that might dry and I can put some branches on in a minute. So I think with this sort of thing, it's a really good idea to experiment. I also brought a few books in, different artists there that use watercolours with different examples, so there's all sorts of different styles. So I'm going to try to start with using a fairly big brush. So this is like a big flat, kind of moppy, quite soft head brush, holds a lot of moisture. And really just go, so this one, we're just going to start from the top here. And with watercolours, I tend to start working light to dark. So mix some pale yellow and some blue to get a nice light green. And then I'm going to pop that in and hopefully that will stay a little bit wet and I can still drop some of the darker tones into. So again, some quite broad areas and just leaving a few little holes for the light coming through. And I'm just really trying to follow the general shape of the masses of leaves really. And there's quite a broad mass going through here. So this is working onto sort of dry paper. Another approach would be to sort of dampen the paper first and work wet into wet, which I'll have a go at. The other thing is this, when you're working with watercolours, you want your board about that sort of angle. This is far too steep, but then you wouldn't be able to see what I was doing if I stand there. So kind of work my way down like that. And then I'll drop some darker tones in. So I've got a little bit of a darker green here. The paints I'm using are sort of out of tubes, so that I find is and it's a little bit too green, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue and a little bit of red to it. Darken that down a bit. So this will, as this is still wet, it will kind of merge in a little bit in places. So I quite like that effect. I'm trying to get really like a general impression of a tree, so leaving some of the lighter greens and some of the dark areas. Another technique that, so I could try the wet in wet, let's just try that. I'll just get some clean water. And there's one or two examples in these books. So another approach would be to sort of dampen the page like that. Or if you painted the sky, you could then work it into the sky. And then...
So, sorry Paul, do you need to draw... So you said that paint in the sky, so you better to work on it when it's wet?
Yeah. Basically, you could paint the sky, and then while it's still wet, I'll see if I can find a few examples in there for you. Just actually, put some greens on like that. So you'd need actually quite a strong green. Let's make that a bit stronger. and you get a much softer look. So this might be, I might better say like if it was a misty scene or something like that, might get a kind of trees in the mist look. So that might be more appropriate for that. Or you could use that, let that dry, and then put some sharper marks over the top, which is what some people do. What else? Another technique that I've seen is actually I do that more with the winter one. Actually, sort of dry, almost like a dry brush. So yeah, let's just put some trunks in this before I go too much further. I mean, a lot of people would put the trunk first, but I always find that, to me it makes sense to just kind of, you might see a little bit of tree trunk and then it'll disappear and then a bit more comes back. So just using a kind of medium size, more pointed brush now, not too tiny because it will just run out of paint, but I can get a nice point with that. You could, if you wanted, draw this out with a pencil first, whereabouts you're going to paint. But this particular tree is fairly forgiving. And there's another trunk in there. A little bit here. And then for finer lines, I use these little thin rigger brushes. So it could be quite nice to just odd thinner branches, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'll leave that one there. It might need a bit more, maybe a few even darker bits. Let's just go a tiny bit darker. Just see what happens. So that's actually starting to dry now, so it might be better to just kind of leave that, otherwise I'll start pulling paint off. Do a little bit here, I think, with one of the winter trees. So I've just got pictures. No, I'll get another piece of paper actually. So this is sort of like a medium surface watercolour paper, which I keep a stock of this. It's 40p a sheet if anybody needs a bit of paper. So yeah, so these, what I was trying here was almost to give, using that picture, and sort of try and give them a general impression of twigs in the distance. So a bit like I've done here. What I've done is use having a fairly dry brush. So it's definitely a good idea just to test it out somewhere first, so it's not too wet. It might be a bit wet. Let's try that. And then just almost like just catching the surface of the paper, so that you get this little bit of texture. I think from a distance that can give the impression of leaves or twigs. Sort of, I can look at these sort of areas. So that was just with a flat brush. I think this brush, I should be able to get a similar sort of, if I don't have it too wet, hopefully getting just as good a mark with that. Slightly different, but that could work too. And then once I've got some of that in, I can then go in with the smaller brushes and just get individual twigs. That sort of thing. Just being careful not to go too dark too quickly. Otherwise they'll just really jump out. Something like that. And as I work back towards the branch, a slightly bigger brush. And can go a little bit darker too. So a few different techniques to play around with, really. I do find it a really tricky
It's a long way.
So definitely don't go. Have a practice first.
It's not bad though, is it? Really?
Not too bad. So with watercolours, I really do think it's a good idea to go for very simple subjects. I've seen so many people do a really complicated drawing and then not be able to just get simple washes down. And there's an awful lot of practice in just mastering a simple wash. A lot of practice I still need. Thank you.
Perhaps the teaching side.
Yeah, it is.